Welcome back to Beyond the Spectrum. This is Dream, sharing our family's journey with autism with you. And this is actually episode 24. I made a mistake yesterday and said it was 24 yesterday, but it was 23. So here we go. Now it might seem like I'm jumping so far ahead because we're going from basically the 10-11 stage all the way into high school. But I'm just going to tell you that when he was going through his elementary and junior high, I was his homeschool teacher. We were going through charter schools. We had support there. There were different options for social environments and activities and community projects that we were a part of. And it was very comfortable. We had gotten into a nice space where things were just predictable. We were growing steadily. Things were enjoyable. He was just an amazing child then and still is today. Again, I say child, meaning he's my child, but of course he's a man now. And family life was just going well. We had struggles, external, and we had different things that we were dealing with in life. But as far as the autism was concerned, we had really gotten into a sweet, sweet space. And I don't talk about the rest of my family during this time because obviously the focal point is Micah and the autism and this journey through it. But let me just say that we all had different things that we were going through at the time. And of course, I could do a podcast on each individual person in my family. But once again, we're going to stay focused on the autism. I will tell you this, and this is one of those tricky things, because we know that when we are in that really sweet space where life is easy, it's so nice, and there's no stress, and we're relaxing, and we almost feel like we can take a break. And that's okay. But deep down, you know that you grow the best and the most when you're going through the struggle. When things are too easy, you're most likely not learning a lot of lessons during that time. You're probably stagnating, and it's in those difficult times where you see what you're made of, and you most likely rally to grow beyond. So even though those times were really nice, it was probably preparing us. It was the lull, it was the calm before the storm. It was preparing us for what would come with high school. Both Sydney and Micah were in the same grade. Micah had gone to school early. He had gone to that special day school, and then he had gone to kindergarten, and then he repeated kindergarten. And he didn't really need to repeat kindergarten because he was missing out on a lot of the intellectual things or the educational things. He was doing fine. What we wanted, though, was to make sure that he was never in a stage that was over his head. That I knew would really break his spirit. And I would rather him have that extra year of preparation and maturity and readiness. And also, what was very important for us was that he had someone with him that was watching his back. So it became ideal for us to kind of hold him and push Sydney ahead so that they were in the same class together, and that worked brilliantly. I mean, they worked so well together because they had completely different strengths and weaknesses, and they offset one another. So they each had that place to shine and feel like this was their thing. And they also had a place where they could see that the other person was modeling how to do better in the other subjects. And it literally could not have been any better. They were naturally competitive with each other, but it wasn't the kind of competition that was mean-spirited. They encouraged each other. They cheered each other. They learned from each other. They taught one another. And it was a beautiful experience to watch them going through school together. In our charter school, we had a lot of support there. We had an amazing teacher who became a family friend of ours, just that loved our family with all of her heart and supported us through that entire process. Miss Maria, we love you. And she just became this, staple in our life. She became one of the pillars in that whole season of life, just helping us through that. At some point, we were getting ready to move. I knew that though I believed in my strength as a homeschool teacher, mom, all the way up until about ninth grade, I knew ninth grade was my limit. It's not that I wasn't a good student in school. I was a stellar student in school. I don't even say that with any kind of pride. I just was a really good student, and I did well in the university, and I knew that I could, but I also knew that I couldn't do it as well as other options. And I remember talking to my husband, and he said, "I think you would be best. I think you should keep going." And I said, "No, I know my limitations, and I'm not going to let my pride, saying like, oh, I should do this. I should finish the test. No, I'm not going to do that and then put our kids in a place where they suffer. We are going to take another route." So 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, we did a DVD series. They would do their schooling by watching the DVD. So it was kind of like being in a classroom environment, but kind of like a remote classroom environment, but they were already recorded. But because of the way that they did the DVDs, it was funny because the kids would actually say, "Oh, Patricia made a fool of herself. She said this," and the whole class laughed. And it was really funny because we knew that it was a DVD. We knew that these weren't really their school friends, but we almost like kind of suspended belief, for a little while to just to fall into this new pace and to just imagine that it was. And what was really amazing about this is when you go to a school, you might have one of those really amazing, teachers or professors that just are top notch. And it's amazing to be able to be in a school like that where you get this teacher that changes the subject for you. I mean, I remember when I would go all through elementary, junior high, doing history, and I hated it. Because I went to a school where, you had the one teacher that does all of the class, So they were amazing at one subject, but not so great in another. And then you had that teacher for several years and they just didn't really like history themselves. So you didn't get the best history, and you never got that passion. You never got bit by the excitement and the love of that subject. And then I remembered I went to high school and I had this teacher that unlocked history for me. And all of a sudden I realized this is interesting. This is amazing. But you don't always get that in school when you go to a particular school. They don't maybe have the money to get the best teachers of all, in every single subject. You get what you get. And it's based on your location and it's based on, your social economic status and all of that. Well, because we chose this DVD series, the school was able to choose the best across the nation and get these teachers that loved their subject, that loved teaching, and it just made a difference. It made a huge difference from me looking at it, watching them take the classes, from me being able to support them and not actually have to teach, from me actually at that time dancing with the idea of going back to work, doing some remote jobs and stuff like that. We entered this new season where we were trying something new and it seemed to work. And then I made a mistake. Sydney is the kind of student where you could basically say, "Hey, here's all your work for the year. It's due by May 30th. See you then." And she would have the schedule and the mindset. She is extremely organized. She plans like her mother. Like we have that kind of thing where we say, "Okay, May 31st is when I need to be done. Let me think about this in a backwards kind of schedule, make my timelines and do this in a way that's organized." And we like checking off on the list. We like exceeding expectations. We like to be, a good student. And so we pride ourselves on that. Now with Micah, he's a very, very different child. Now we have that whole thing coming back into play where time and time management and sequencing things makes a huge difference when all of a sudden mom is there being the teacher and seeing what you do every day. And now mom thinks, "Oh, we've entered this new era." And once again, I made that same mistake when, the party, remember that episode with the party where I put him in that place and that mom gave me that lecture because I had put him in a place where he was going to fail and I set him up for failure. I feel a lot of responsibility in this. Though I know he would take responsibility as well, but I take more of the responsibility because I was the adult and I was the mom. and I had been the homeschool teacher. And I think that I thought he was prepared to do the time management thing, and he wasn't. And it wasn't until it got really bad that we realized what was at stake here. And so when I think about this, do I regret things? Regret is a bad word. I don't regret it because it's what we needed to shape and mold us to be who we are today. And so in that way, I don't regret. Do I wish that maybe I had seen it sooner so that I could have helped that along to the point where we were learning faster? Yeah, probably. Do I wish that we had not allowed certain things to go so far that they were so stressful for everyone involved that it didn't get to that stage? Yes, I do wish that. But here we are on the other side of it, having learned, having been grateful for the experience, and remembering that, being able to say to Micah during these times now, whenever something like that comes again, hey, we can't go back there. And it snaps, he remembers that and he's not going to go back to that place. I won't go into a lot of detail because I feel like now we're getting into stages where we're getting into a place where it's getting very close to where Micah is right now. And I want to protect his heart. I want to protect. I don't mind kind of laying my failures out there, but this is his story too. And it's a very personal thing. And I don't want him to feel like I've just kind of like laid it all out there. But I will say this, be very careful at this stage. High school, you're dealing with so many other things that you don't want to once again put them into a place. I say once again because I did this, but you don't want to make the mistake of putting them in a place where you've set them up to fail. You've given them too much freedom. You've hoped maybe that, now I think they can start growing as, a young adult and run with this, but they might not be ready for that yet. So be very cautious. And I think I'm going to pick up with that tomorrow so that we can continue this story and give it the full attention that it really deserves. But until then, soak it all in, apply it where you need to in your own life, and I will see you tomorrow.